So what's the truth about all those functional exercises? Do you ever wonder if they're safer, they're better, or if they put you more at risk? I'm going to tackle that in this video.
Hey, I'm Deborah Atkinson, host of Flipping 50, the podcast, and Flipping 50 TV. And I want to answer this question because very often I'm getting questions that start from my new private coaching clients or from new group members in our Flipping 50 membership that'll start with, I used to work with a functional trainer, or I want to make sure that I'm doing functional exercise. And there's a little problem with defining functional because there is no just group of exercises that are functional. It's really about what's the goal that you have, what are your highest priorities, and what is your activity history? What is your life experience? What do you have going on right now at your joints and at your muscles? That determines what's the most functional exercise for you right now. We don't just pick from this select pool of functional exercises and determine that's the best thing for you, for any one individual out of the millions of us that there are. So first of all, I want you to realize that any exercise can be functional if it is in alignment with your goals. Let's take a look at what often does get shoved into this group of functional exercise types and what happens when you saw me demonstrating a functional move at the opening of this video. What could possibly go wrong? Let's see. So let's go back to the shoulder press. So I've got 10-pound weights. Now, if I were just gonna do a shoulder press, I would want to use something a lot lighter than that. Why? Because I don't have any momentum coming up and overhead. So I'm gonna wanna take my arms here in front, so don't go out to the side, but they go in front when you're pushing them up, and you want to hold on to weights and push them up here. Generally, what I recommend is doing one at a time. Why? That's a lot safer, a lot less likely also that you will arch your back. When you have two going up, that's a lot more weight up and above the lever that's working, and definitely up and above your core and your lower back. So it's harder to maintain a good, strong back. So it's important that you start lighter, and you would want to do and be proficient at using overhead shoulder press one at a time with lighter weights to know you have the strength here, so that when you are doing a movement that's complicated, that you're doing a squat and then pushing up, that you're in control and you already know what good form feels like. So watch this. If I do the same movement, no weight, do you see what happens here to my back? If I do this, now I've got 10 pounds, and I go here, I'm arching my back much more. Now, I'm not trying to, and actually, I'm supposed to be demonstrating good form, but it's natural that in the movement, because you've got momentum, you're just gonna move right through it, we will tend, you will and I will tend to fall apart. We'll tend to lose control of some of those things that actually make us then more at risk for injury. So I always recommend, make sure, first of all, you're good at a squat. You know good form. You know bending as low as you can, pain-free, and you know keeping your weight on your heels. You know when you come up, you're not locking your knees. Now watch, what happens when I did my weights to my knees? So I want to get over here, you can see my feet a little bit better. So when I come down, fine. But when I go up, you notice it's easier for me to pop it back because there's a lot going on. So it takes a lot more concentration to do this well when I've got multiple things happening. So if you're gonna do what some people will call a thruster, doing that squat to a push, the reason we put that in is because, quote unquote, it's functional. Trainers will tell you it incorporates more core. However, when it does, there's more risk going on. So we've got not only the joints in our lower body, namely the knees that'll take the brunt of it, either flexing too much or forward weight on our balls of our feet, which push the stress here instead of in our glutes, and hyperextending at the top, which then will put the stress in our lower back. And up and overhead with a weight, we really don't have any business simply pressing one at a time if we're just doing that exercise. So when we take a complex movement and jump right into that without owning the pieces of that movement first, either without weight or alone with the weight, we've gone to a place where we make ourselves much more vulnerable to injury. So in daily activities of life, do we ever do that? Of course we do. We go out in December, if you're lucky and you're in the Midwest, and for the very first time all year long, we shovel heavy snow. We do things like that on a regular basis, seasonally or at holidays. You've got stacks of your best china and you're gonna put them in the top shelf, right? When do you otherwise lift something really heavy and put it overhead? Very rarely, but we often do that in real life. So should we do it in our exercise? Not consciously, right? We want to make sure that we're training so that we prepare ourselves to be able to do those anomalies, that heavy shoveling, because we have done functional movements that encourage rotation and even some against leverage or against resistance. But we've got to be thoughtful about how we put things together. So if you're doing movements or you're encouraged to do functional movements or wonder, is that a good exercise? For me, it's good to ask. Separate the parts. Are you able to do the parts first individually and then put them into one single move? Because once momentum gets involved, it's easy for things to fall apart. I hope that was helpful. If you've got an exercise you wonder about it specifically, drop it below in the comments and let me know.